Welcome to Speidel's California Minute. I'm your host, Catherine Zidane. This week we're covering some potential traps to watch out for when paying pass-through entity taxes. We'll be covering the pass-through entity tax plus other California-specific topics like disaster filing postponements and conformity issues at our Critical California Tax Issues webinar on August 24th. You can register for the live or on-demand version of this course at caltax.com under webinars. The storm-related postponement to October 16, 2023 applies to any tax due during the postponement period, and this includes the final installment of the 2022 pass-through entity tax as well as the 2023 prepayment due on June 15, 2023. Although the October 16th postponement provided relief for many taxpayers, it's important to avoid the following two potential traps when making these postponed pass-through entity elective tax payments. First, make sure the payments are made for the correct year. The 2022 remaining balance of the pass-through entity tax should be paid with the 2022 Form 3893 payment voucher, and the June 15th prepayment for the 2023 tax year is paid with the 2023 Form 3893 voucher. If your clients are making prepayments with WebPay, make sure they're crediting the payments to the correct year. Second, make sure your clients don't combine these payments with their payments for their other entity taxes that are due. Both the prepayment of the tax and any other installment of the tax have to be paid with Form 3893 or on WebPay only. The entity cannot apply any other entity taxes that were overpaid to pay the pass-through entity tax. This means overpaid entity taxes cannot be applied to the June 15th prepayment. We've heard from some tax professionals that their software is combining the entity's tax payments and reporting them all on Form 3586 or 3587 vouchers. If this is the case, the tax professional should override the software to avoid having any pass-through entity elective tax underpayment penalties imposed. The pass-through entity tax is subject to the mandatory e-pay requirement if the entity is subject to the mandatory e-pay requirement. But remember, the e-pay requirement only applies to corporations, not to partnerships. Keep in mind that these pass-through entity elective tax payments are made by the entity, not the individual owner, so they will never trigger mandatory e-pay for the owners, but they may trigger a mandatory e-pay requirement for the entities. Partnerships and LLCs taxed as partnerships are not subject to the e-pay mandate, so pass-through entity tax payments made by these entities will not trigger a mandatory e-pay requirement, regardless of the amount involved. For S corporations making payments on behalf of their consenting owners, if the corporation already has a mandatory e-pay requirement, the payment has to be made electronically because once a taxpayer is subject to the e-pay mandate, all future payments have to be made electronically. For S corporations not previously subject to the mandate, it's important to keep in mind that these payments are not considered estimated tax or extension payments, so they won't trigger the mandate if the payment is $20,000 or above, but less than $80,000. Also, prepayments of this tax are not considered part of the final tax liability, so they won't trigger mandatory e-pay there. But they will be included on the S corporation's final tax liability when the S corporation's return is filed. So the e-pay requirement may be triggered if the S corporation's final tax liability is over $80,000 when the return is filed. Even if the FTB has not notified the taxpayer, once the return showing the tax liability is filed, all future payments have to be made electronically. Get an update on everything that happened during the year and get prepared for California returns as well at Speidel's 2023-2024 Federal and California Tax Update webinar. See a full list of topics and choose from 22 available dates at caltax.com under webinars. That's all for this week. Join us next time for another episode of Speidel's California Minute.